Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Signet for organizing this and having all of us together here. I'm extremely delighted to be moderating this session with the leading industry experts. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, in tax. If you see, AI is everywhere. It is just few inches away from us, from our fingertips at any given point in time. I feel that AI in taxation has already opened doors to unlock trillions of dollars in value for the entire economy and for most organizations. We have already seen the transformational benefits of AI in healthcare sector, in travel industry, the way art and music is curated these days. So with this backdrop, my first question is to Saurabh. Saurabh, we all know that tax operations are very complex and critical. Professionals spend around 20 to 30% of their time in data collation, data compiling. How do you think artificial intelligence and blockchain in taxation can reduce errors and increase efficiency?
I'm not sure whether we are just spending 20-30% or we are spending more. I mean, the way we are looking at the data these times, the way businesses are growing, so do the data is. And, I think data collation is I would say the main activity that most of the tax professionals in an in-house, tax team of any corporate do, because data is the key to any tax compliances, even go beyond tax compliances. So data is critical. Data is, it's important to ensure that we have the right set of data and the quality of the data to really manage the tax compliances. And I do believe that the artificial intelligence can really support us. Now, I'm not saying that artificial intelligence can give us a complete solution to it, but it can really support to make our life a little easier, more process-oriented, so that the tax professionals can, just stop spending the entire time and bandwidth on data mining, but they can start looking at more strategic aspects, which is right now only being restricted at people at the top level. But I think the entire strategy flows down the entire hierarchy. Even the person at the lowest level is capable of looking at the things strategically within his or her parameter. So artificial intelligence is definitely going to support. It can definitely support. It can reduce the turnaround time. We can introduce artificial intelligence, even at a small scale level, step by step, so that we can cover the processes one by one and then look at the larger picture. So AI can definitely help.
No, very well said, Saurabh. It can add value at every chain, at
Exactly.
every level in the value chain.
Exactly.
So agree with you there. So Amandeep, my next question to you is that, we have seen tax authorities making more and more use of AI. And this is apparent from the pre-filled tax returns that we have. We already spoke about it in the past. And, e-invoicing, e-way bill. So they are using data to, highlight deviations more than ever. So as business leaders, how ready are we to implement AI in tax for our businesses?
So thanks for the question. Am I audible? Is this working? Yeah. So again, you very rightly said that tax authorities are using AI. They're issuing self-generated notices, which is basically not very intelligent, but yes, they are actually comparing data of your returns, GSTR 1, 3B, 9, and then your credit which you have taken in, and then comparing it to and sending automated notices. We at the same time, I would say that as a company, we are much prepared for this, because we have already put in place systems where we are analyzing it on a month-on-month basis, and we are ready because we knew even in 2017-18 something of this type will come, because this information is already available with the government. So we have our own analytical tools where every month before filing returns, we do comparison between the 2A, 2B and what our credit register is. We do check whether the credit that we have taken has already been reported by the authorities or not. And yes, that AI is helping us in doing that, because most of the reconciliations which we are doing is already fetched from the system. we don't spend that much time in creating those reconciliations, which it's already there, and we just have to analyze them and stop that credit which has not been reported, and then we do take the credit which has been reported. So yeah, we are ready for that, and but we feel that we are only at the grade 1 level when it comes to use of AI. A government can also help us in this by having a blockchain concept where the information that we have put can be taken by all authorities and be used, instead of me giving different data set to all 26 states where we are registered. So I think we are already there, but yes, there's a lot more scope to do this better. Yeah.
No, I agree. It is just like icing on the cake right now, and there's a huge set of data and compliances that can still be automated. Right. So, Nitu, we've all been talking about data and the importance of data. So, data is a very critical input to develop any AI solution. The success of anything depends on what kind of data is fed. In India, there are still multiple taxes still prevalent at central and state level, despite GST introduction. So, what are the challenges or improvements that can be made in our ERP systems so that we collect data in a more standardized format and build more and more intelligent solution around tax?
Sure. Thank you for this very important question, I will say. I think data management goes beyond tax, even for analytics or anything we need it, but let me keep myself from a taxes perspective restricted. I think one very important principle, and that not just for ERP, because I think for taxes, we're not only data is coming from ERP, actually the data is coming from various different sources, the various operating systems we have. So it's very important when we think about the challenges or the improvements, they have to be taken up to the organization or those systems also, not just between, let's say, tax teams and ERPs. Now, to me, I think I'm currently in the process of, because being in a new organization, implementing a ERP. So I keep on repeating this to my team that please remember garbage in, garbage out. So if we are putting in garbage in our data, we are going to get the garbage, be it tax returns or be it tax reconciliations or be it any other aspect. So with that thought in mind, we need to have certain processes and policies to make sure that this happens. And policies which are more, let's say, practical. Couple of important aspects if I can highlight. So I think first thing, let's say master data management. Even from a tax perspective, how we are maintaining our master data, how the HSN codes are maintained at a category level. Like just giving you a live example, actually, yesterday only I was talking to my tax head, and in our ERP implementation, she said, right now we're not going live with the HSN code being directly getting picked up from the master. So we will have to feed it an invoice level, put the category, and then it'll come. So there was no standardization in that. So how that master data is managed, how that standardization is done, I think that's very important to one aspect to look at. And probably in organizations we give maybe less importance to master data management, especially in all the other areas of organization, when I mean operations and how the data is fed into different systems. And then I think data governance and data ownerships, we have to set up those clearly, and then not just set those up in processes and policies, because I think I've seen that also where we make those policies and then what happens next. So then those maker checkers and how that's being governed on a regular basis, I think that's very important to set up on a more practical way is what I would say is a key to data improvement.
No, I agree with you, Nitu. I mean, very valid points. Yeah,
and
Saurabh,
just to
please.
add here, I think she has touched a very right point about garbage in, garbage out. So even in artificial intelligence era, it's important that the data that we expect the intelligence to work on, that data has to have a sanity check. Means unless and until the data is robust, you can't expect wonders from a technology, right? And master data is the very first step, because even I had experienced that, where we know that we need to do a lot of work on the master data itself, so that we can start with the very first level and then progressively work on the other and the subsequent aspects to it. So master data is very, very important to it.
Here is what I have a request from technology developers. If they can help us develop the standard format itself, because like Saurabh mentioned, we spend a lot of time in developing those standard formats. So if you can give us that with your technology, we can have it inbuilt in our systems and, work with service providers like Oracle to, give us that data automatically from the systems itself. So,
I would say fetch that data because the
Yeah.
data could be there. The
Right.
only point is that whether that is a mandatory field in the ERP for the user to put in.
Right.
So data is going to be there somewhere. It's important that it should get collated in the right format.
So cover my next question to you. AI is rapidly expanding everywhere, and tax is no exception. There was a lot of excitement amongst finance fraternity when, at the launch event of ChatGPT, the AI tool performed a live tax computation. However, that raises a very important question. Tax laws are all rule-based, full of nuances and interpretations. How do we ensure that right kind of technology is developed which can provide for each such scenario and with reliability?
Thank you. I'll try and address that. It's a fairly wide question. Audible? So, few things, first of all, let's get this clear in our minds. Technology, machine learning, AI, generative AI. We are kind of using some of these terms interchangeably. They are not really interchangeable terms. This is an evolution, a revolution which is in the making. Okay. Now, when we say, hey, we had ChatGPT doing tax computations and how reliable it can be, let's try and go back a few steps in terms of, what is it that can help us solve for the multiple rules, notifications, case laws, and ever-changing tax structures that we have, right? Now, there are various ways of looking at this problem. One is a bottoms-up approach in terms of what we can do from a corporation perspective, from a taxpayer perspective. But there is another way to look at it, and that's the way I would want to, tackle this to start with, that tax is a tops-down thing. Tax is what the governing authorities want it to be. It comes from top to down. And when it comes from top to down, it has to be enabled at the top for life to become easier as a taxpayer. Now, there are various ways which we can say, and I'll just focus on the technology piece of it. Of course, all of us can say, hey guys, why have so many taxes? Why don't you have one tax registration number, life will be simple, all of that. So I'm not going in that direction. Let's just focus it from a technology perspective. Given the complications that we have had, I'll give you an example of income tax to start, just as a different example. And I guess all of us in our individual capacities have experienced CPC 2.0, which is what we use to file our returns and so on. Now think about income tax, think about rules, sub-rules, and what all scenarios could apply. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, as of today, there are 65,000 scenarios which get applied real time whenever anyone files a tax return. Now, are those 65,000 scenarios hard-coded? Is there AI behind it? Is there machine learning behind it? Is there generative AI behind it? I would set that to rest. I think, these are evolving technologies and there are different ways of tackling it. If we were to do this 20 years back, we would have said, hard code everything into programming, right? Someone has to hard code everything into programming and it will be reused. Today, the fundamentals of IT solutions itself has changed. People have moved from hard coding it to building configurable software systems which are enhanceable. So income tax, for example, added 5,000 scenarios between last year and this year. And it was all configurable. They are using Oracle rules engine to configure more rules as they need to and do away with some rules as they need to. So there is technology available for everything. The question that we should ask ourselves is, what do we want? As a taxpayer, what is it that works for me? Do I want a tag on my chest to say, hey, I have implemented AI in my organization? If that is what your go-to is, yes, there are solutions available which incorporate AI. But if we are talking about solving the fundamental data problem, then is it really an AI solution, or is it how we have configured our ERP so that we get a consistent set of data out of that ERP? Remember, ERP is the core everywhere. And an ERP can be configured to give you data which is reliable, consistent, and helps you comply. But that requires, as you know, as Nitu mentioned, garbage in, garbage out. So you need to configure it in a way that it doesn't actually take in garbage and give you garbage back. So there are solutions available. There is configurable solutions. There are scalable solutions. AI is here to stay. What we are seeing here is just the beginning. Hopefully, we'll get to the point where we don't need tax returns. We just need to say, yes, yeah, this works.
We're all waiting for that day, actually. There are many fantasies when it comes to technology, and one of the fantasies is not having to file tax return. Right. So moving on, my next question is to Saurabh. Schneider Electric has deals with huge volume of transactions, manufacturing, digital automation, energy management devices. You operate from more than 30 locations in India. Now, managing taxes at each state, at each location, can be a humongous task for any organization. So what are the areas into taxation where you are already using technology? We all spoke about GST recos and TDS recos, but what is there more that you have done to, say that we are not just for the tag that we're using AI, but, the data that is getting generated is actually useful to run the organization?
No, you're right. It's indeed a challenge to manage the compliances all across India. I would say we are still in a very, very nascent stage when it comes to technology, because, the technologies that you mentioned about the TDS reconciliations and GST reconciliations, that became the need of the hour to start with because of the various reportings that we need to do, whether it's a tax audit, reporting, or the GST filings that needs to be done. Now, TDS is obviously very old, but the kind of, the focus that the government started having on TDS really pushed us as well to start looking at the TDS aspects more comprehensively, so as to really ensure that even if we don't have the right kind of digitization, still we have the right kind of data to, submit as and when required. Now, GST is, again, with GST implementation and gradually the way government has introduced the entire technology. I would say government is far ahead of us when it comes to use of technology, even if it's at a very, very, as you said, the first layer of a cake. But still, they are using technology, the way we are seeing the notices, the way we are seeing the questions coming in, even if they are not kind of using too much of technology to really ask the precise questions, but yes, they are still using technology, which is also pushing us to embed technology in some way or the other, so be prepared to answer them on real-time basis. So I think the initial technologies are working, while I can say it was kind of pushed, but yes, we were pushed to do that, we did that, but now, as we are moving ahead, we are thinking in terms of what we can do next. Now, obviously, we need to look beyond compliances in terms of how we can ensure that we are compliant. We are 100% compliant. We do say that we are 100% compliant, but how we can get more surety, first as a tax head, because only then we'll be much more comfortable in saying that to the management. Second is how we can have a technology to ensure a more robust tax monitoring. Now, that could be by way of a dashboard or analytics and all. So there are multiple things that we are working on. Again, what we are looking at is end-to-end solution, which can, again, take the data and give us some kind of a dashboard with various parameters, which is sufficient, or which can kind of capable me or my CFO or my CEO to have a complete understanding of how we are progressing when it comes to tax compliances. So there are multiple things that we are working on. Something where we are kind of introducing something to have the end-to-end reconciliations. We are working on something where we are creating the repository of the data, whether it's a financial data or a tax-related data. We are working on something which can give us a real-time understanding of the tax risk that we are sitting at, how to manage the entire risk, what kind of litigation history we have, what kind of notices we have, what is the status of those, all the matters, issue-wise, risk-wise, authority-wise. So there are multiple things to it that we are working on, some being implemented, some is in progress. Besides that, obviously, even from a compliances perspective, as I said earlier as well, we have to take those small steps. So there's a lot of internal transformation that we are doing on our data, on our output that we intend to have, so that we are ready for facing the tax authorities and as and when they will ask the information. So yes, we are progressing well on that, I would say.
It's good to see that there's a lot of energy amongst every leader to implement technology. And let me tell you that as a tax head of Vedanta, that we have implemented every technology that is available in the market, and rest we are still looking. So, yeah.
Just to add what Saurabh said, that yes, government has been implementing technology at various levels, although at an initial stage only. But at the same time, what I personally feel is that a lot of education needs to be given to the people at the department level who are using that technology. Because what has been happening historically is that they have an inertia to drop any demand or drop any notice which has been issued. 95 to 99% of the notices that get issued get converted to show cause notice, which get converted to demand, which is again increasing litigation for the taxpayers. So we need to, the government needs to educate the tax officers also that the notice has been generated based on AI, and you need to apply your mind intelligently and see what the taxpayer is giving the information, and then in case it is found satisfactory, you need to drop it. So that education I personally feel is lacking as of now at the department level. So that can be a downside of technology, because it is adding to the litigation costs of the taxpayers.
I definitely is adding to litigation. Yeah, because they have more information to just randomly issue notices now. Right. So my next question is again to you, Amandeep. We all know Saurabh has spoken about the advantages of AI, blockchain, machine learning, and for auditing, for predictive tax analysis, for risk detection. So what kind of technology are you using at SBI, being the government organization also?
So one, that this is not a government organization. This is a subsidiary of government PSU bank. We are a private company, and we are running it privately, listed company. So I'll to say. So I'll break it into two parts. When it comes to technology, whether it's AI or machine learning, what I personally feel, whatever I have observed in years when we have implemented, and all of this has escalated after introduction of GST, because every year there has been some change which we need to implement. I personally feel that within taxes, it can be divided into two parts. One is the day-to-day compliance or annual compliance, and the other is the litigation part. As far as day-to-day compliances are concerned and the annual compliances are concerned, this AI is really helpful. It's taking away much of our routine work and doing it the first level of work for us, and we are only analyzing the differences which are there. But when it comes to the litigation part, still the technology is lagging behind, I would say, because I recently attended 1 or 2 trainings for ChatGPT, and we got to know that even ChatGPT suffers from hallucinations. It starts creating case laws which have not been there. In fact, there has been a very interesting case where in US, a lawyer submitted some case laws from ChatGPT, and the court found that those case laws never existed. So the ChatGPT suffered from hallucinations and then created some stories out of them, and then that lawyer, without doing any research work on those cases, he just submitted in court and he was penalized for that. So the technology is lagging behind as and when we talk about litigation, because when you come to litigation, you need to tell when this particular legislation was introduced, what was said in the budget speech, what was the intention of bringing in. So I think technology is lagging behind as far as litigation is concerned. But yes, when it comes to AI on the day-to-day compliances, routine procedural work, it's working nicely. We have at least 3 bolt-ons to our ERP system, which help us in various data processing, whether it is TDS, whether it's GST, or whether it is other tedious audits. But what I personally feel that now the time has come where the data starts talking to each other. The data we give to direct tax authorities versus what we give to GST authorities. Because you would see even the TDS return now has a clause which tells you to explain whatever expenses you are mentioning in TDS, what is the treatment in the GST law. So that time has come, and now we should have something which should work as a common data pool resource. So maybe government can implement a blockchain mechanism where we just feed our data and it is available to different authorities, and so that we don't need to submit it again and again. And yes, we are using different technologies currently, which is the need of the hour for doing all these compliances. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. If the government can launch a common e-commerce platform which has cab services, restaurants, all kinds of products and services selling on it, why can't they have a common tax platform with custom, GST, everything together?
Can I just add to what's being said? There are various tax compliance softwares that Government of India is today using, and I'm no one to talk on behalf of Government of India here, so I'm just giving you my personal view in terms of how I see that. What is happening in the background is that technology is now enabling interconnecting all of them. There are open APIs and they can talk to each other. How soon will it end up being one solution, and how soon will it simplify the entire thing where you can simply, wake up, look at the screen and say yes. Okay, so it should, technically, is it possible? Yes, it is possible. What does it need? I think it just needs that resolve on part of someone who has the authority to say, I need one umbrella which can take care of my multiple tax laws, at least at the federal government level, right? And then that in itself is possible to solve for. Tax systems in any case are talking to each other. The data mining is happening across platforms, and that's where you will also now, or you might have already come across notices which are cross-referring to different data sources, right? So that cross-data mining is already starting to happen. It's just about the compliance part, it's working in the reverse order. The compliance part should have been integrated first, but already you can see data mining is working cross-platforms.
So let me move on with my next question. Nitu, this question is for you. I mean, we're all eagerly waiting for Noida International Airport to start functioning. So, managing an airport means dealing with a huge set of infrastructure, asset base, lots of systems, processes, cross-border laws that get applicable. So, how are you designing technology into your system at the airport right now to ensure that most of it is automated and there is a common dashboard for you? I mean, we've all touched on this question in bits and pieces till now, but...
I know that's how we've set up our vision. That end is that common dashboard and a platform. And the good part is that before implementing many systems, we have selected that platform which will be used for that dashboard. I'll come to the reason why we've done that. So you're right, from an airport perspective, yes, it's multiple stakeholders, it's multiple databases. Our revenue streams even work in such a way which are, let's say, not completely managed within ERP. We will have certain airport operations database, etc., etc. So I think the first important thing was us to set up that architecture, that okay, which all systems are there and how they speak with each other, and then this layer of the tool which we have selected, wherein the data from all the systems will flow into one common platform. So we're trying to build that vision of one truth, that from everywhere, be it ERP or be it we call it AODB, the airport operations database, or from our billing system, the data flows to that one part. That's one aspect. But then now coming back to implementing those technologies and trying to automate, yes, before even we started implementing our technology, what we started doing because we get to start the operations, hopefully end of next year is what we are targeting, but even 2 years before where I'm sitting today, maybe 1.5 years before, we started setting up our SOPs for our operations. So what, and that even with our stakeholders like airlines, like our various, let's say cargo partners, etc. So what will be those processes, and also an understanding with that partners that how we will share and collate that data. So if, because let's say it's airlines or cargo, then their systems will also be used. But it's very important for us as an airport operator to also get those data into our system. So so as we're starting from the scratch, so to begin with, those agreements were very important that yes, we have that common understanding. So first we get that from a data perspective. Then the various tools, how they are integrating with each other. We are aspiring and trying to be one of the digital airport, and we're wanting that it's, and for digitization, I think it's very important that it's not only front end, the back end of our organization is also automated. So to achieve that vision, we have set up, so our digital team has created certain digital scenarios that, okay, how our passengers, when they start from their home till reach the aircraft, how their journey is automated. So with that journey, what systems we need and how that automation happens, and then let's say coming back to, for me, for finance, for taxation, how that end result is coming into ERPs through those systems. I'm currently in the phase of implementing ERP, only phase 1, which is very basic finance and procurement, etc. But in that, what I'm focusing and trying is, as I said, the master data management happens, right? How the data is flowing into that system, and how these various steps, be it as simple as the invoice payments or be that simple, how that's happening in an automated manner. So that from beginning to end, we are trying to visualize those processes, set up that, okay, these processes needs to be automated, then what are the tools we need, and then in a phased manner implementing that. And the last step for that, as I said, is one bridge, as we call it, being a Zurich organization, this is named as ZRH bridge, wherein all the data, any system we have in our organization, everything will flow in there, and then all the functions will have their dashboards from that. So that as a CFO, I see what I'm seeing as the CEO, the operations person is also seeing the same source of data. So that's how we are.
What you are saying can be groundbreaking for all of us as a precedent, you know.
No, I'm sure you guys are already much ahead. So I'm learning how I can take these back and fit in these plugs even already into, because yes, we have the luxury of we're still implementing it, so we can fit in those plugs. Like in the morning, I just heard about this Digi GST, so now that's a learning to go back, that along with some other tools, maybe that's something to look at from GST automation perspective. So yeah.
So, Kanwar, what is the kind of, Oracle is leading innovation in every field. In taxation, what is it that we can expect in the coming time? I mean, though you told us outside that you're trying to work with other service providers rather than, so that they can take the data that they need from the ERPs that you design or the Microsoft designs. But any technology development in taxation that is happening, that you see is happening from your service providers or at Oracle?
Yeah. So, again, as I said, I'm a big fan of looking at taxation top down, right? Because if it gets simplified at the top, it will simplify the tax compliance piece automatically. So there are many things which are happening, and there are many which can still happen as we go forward. Few things which have already come into play, and we probably don't realize it. Systems going down have become less frequent than before. Okay. Now that's just one symptom. Okay, one symptom which has become less prevalent. Now there is technology behind it. Okay, so the technology that goes behind it, there are multiple layers, but one of them is what is called as microservices, right? Rather than one big. And again, if you look at one simple income tax portal. You can look at your historical returns. You can file advanced income tax. You can file your income tax returns. You can reply to notices. All of these are independently working from the same user interface that you see. Okay, so that is just one example of technology which is simplifying things. Now the other obviously is, today tax authorities are sitting on a gold mine of data. Now that data is being used to in tax authorities' point of view, get better tax compliances. And in a taxpayer's point of view, we are getting multiple GST and multiple taxation notices to comply with, to reply to litigate and so on and so forth. There are technological advancements which are happening which can help connect all these multiple tax databases that are getting created, talk to each other, and the intelligence that is going into it will help get very focused notices out of it, or not get any notices out of it. Okay? Very simple thing, in what format is data being stored? It all starts from very basics, right? Have you ever noticed while filing income tax, if you use a JSON file, it's a very small in terms of the data size, very, very small. It's very efficient that way. You do it on a spreadsheet, it's much heavier. What does that do? It helps streamline the storage requirements and so on and so forth. So this is very basic, but it helps. Now, when the connection between multiple sources of data becomes streamlined, the gold mine of data that is there and the AI layer that is getting deployed through multiple solutions, they are one, talking to each other. Two, I think most of the organizations, including corporates as well as tax authorities, are now moving away from I will deploy X hardware, Y software, Z amount of people. No. I want this service. Corporations as well as tax authorities. I think I want this service. These are the KPIs. This is what it should do. This is how much uptime it should have. So what does that do? It creates a healthy competition. It also enables the latest technology to be always incorporated. Because anyone who is a solution provider would obviously want to leverage the most efficient of technologies that can provide that service at the most efficient cost and meet those KPIs as well. So that, I believe, is a fundamental change in which is happening around us. We are still not witnessing the entire impact of it. The entire impact of it will be seen. Compare this with how we consume music, as individuals. There was a time when music was consumed through radio, television. Then we had those, MP3 files, pirated music on everyone's devices. I mean, how are you consuming music today? The Spotifys of the world and so on and so forth, right? Do you own that music? No. You don't have any rights on that music. You're using it. You are consuming, not owning. Now, bring this concept to a tax authority level, bring this to an organizational level. Do you really want to own everything, or do you want to consume it as a service? I think the fundamental change which is happening right now, and effect of which will be seen in the forthcoming years, is that organizations as well as authorities are wanting to get service, wanting to consume, spend OPEX, not CAPEX. And that in itself will ensure that a conglomeration of technologies will go into an end-to-end solution which will cater to the specific needs that either a corporate requires or a tax authority requires. So that's my generic feed on that, but happy to clarify if we have time.
These are some very relevant points, and this is how the development is moving forward. I think we're already short of time, so just a few wrap-up questions for everyone. What do you think are the implementation barriers? We all spoke about data not being available in a more standardized format, shift in human mindset. But apart from that, what are the other implementation challenges you think, Amandeep, are there?
So I'll say it's twofold. One, at the department level where we submit the data, and data security is the biggest concern any corporate has. The data that I am giving should be secure, should not be available to my competitors. So that's the biggest challenge that we have, whether you call it a data lake or whether you call it a common pool where we can put our data. So one thing that my InfoSec or anybody would want is that the data that I'm giving to government remains with government, doesn't get leaked out, is secure and is not available to my competitor. So that is one problem that we face at the department's end. The other at our end is basically where the data sets which we are maintaining are not talking to each other. So those are the basic challenges, but that can be very well taken care of. The bigger one lies when we submit the data, where does it goes and how is it being used?
Data security is at the top of everyone's mind.
And this data security is not only in respect of the government. In fact, what I have seen that internally, whenever we talk about implementing any technology, the same concerns come in-house as well, because when we are going to use, as he also mentioned, if we have to use any technology as a service, where we have to share the data with the service provider, the same concern comes in terms of data security and data handling. So it starts at the very first stage itself.
Yeah, the hesitation all comes from that. It should be secured from the competitors.
And that really adds to the overall timeline for implementing any solution. I mean, one of my experiences that for one of the solution which I believe that it's going to be a very simple solution, it took me 6 months to get a clearance from my IT team, because we were supposed to give our data, and that data has to be on the cloud of the service provider. And that's where the entire challenge comes, that whether we can really share our data and allow that data to be on someone else's cloud. So these kind of challenges.
Because tax authorities do have the power, right? They can issue notices and take our data from somebody else as well.
Exactly. No, it's not about. So tax authorities can do whatever. As I said, the first step in-house when we are implementing a technology, even the entire concerns comes there in terms of pushing the data out of our internal ERP to somewhere else.
And being an American company, data is...
Mine is French, but I think the data,
protocols
this
are
concern
much
is
more.
for everyone, exactly.
Okay. So, and how aggressive are the CFOs and everyone to allocate the right budget and giving a free hand to the managers? I mean, how much budget do you have, Nitu, if I may ask in candid words, to implement technology in tax? ERP, I'm sure you have a good budget, but to have technology in tax, I would say.
Tough one to answer. Yes, you're right. I would be honest in admitting that yes, it's still not a priority at that level to allocate the budget to these tools. I'll be very candid and honest. If today to start the airport operations, we are looking at what are the mandatory things. In that, sometimes a discussion does happen that, okay, if this tool is important, but considering budget, can we implement it a little later? And so yes, that challenges we do have, but at the same time, we've kind of adopted a prudent approach to, as I said, automation is one focus area for us. So try and allocate those budget so that those automations can be done. Yes, we've been pragmatic in choosing if there is an off-the-shelf solution available, which could be cheaper, which can be cost-effective. So those kind of things are being used. But budget allocation, my honest answer would be yes. Hands are always tight for such tools.
Can I add to that?
Sure,
and,
please.
I've had this discussion with CFOs, CIOs at multiple intervals of time. That this technology is what I want, but the cost. Now, my 2 cents always has been, it's not the cost of technology, it's actually the cost and risk of not having that technology that you need to cater to. What risk are you assuming by not having it? Are you allowing your competition to get 10 steps ahead of you? Are you allowing your data to become insecure by not having that technology? Are you allowing some other risks to creep in? Are you allowing a risk of litigation in future than not having a right data strategy from the very bare bone basic in terms of how the data is secured and it flows right from ERP onto, onto all the tools. So that's the point.
Your point is valid, but what happens practically, we end up maybe accepting that risk. Okay, for some time we accept this risk. Ideally, I also don't want that. So when I'm implementing today, I want everything to be done. I don't know if by the end of the journey I compromise on certain things because of budget. It could happen. Yeah, it is, you're right. Thought should be like that. I think when you said the human mindset change, it's very important across the organization also how tax is important. It's not just a finance thing anymore. It impacts the business operations, business transaction. So it should be looked at. If there is a GST tool that can smoothen the transaction also. It's not just filing of return, which is, so I think that awareness creation is also probably a part of our job, which we need to do.
No, tax does have a financial impact and huge. If there's a difference between what we have claimed in 3B and what is not coming in 2A, the differences can run in millions, I can tell you.
Number, how
Yes.
critical that's for a GST person, I don't know if anybody else would say that.
No, just to add what Kanwar said, for us and for many organizations that we have seen, tax is being seen as a compliance function. And no compromises are seen because it carries a reputational risk as well. And I keep on telling my management that a stitch in time saves 9. So they all understand these things, that tax being a compliance function and how aggressive demands are coming and how much costly is to litigate the matters. Budgets are never a problem for tax function as such, provided we have done a complete study as to what software we are taking, how cost effective it is, and whether there is a better solution which is available. Once it is done, I think budgets are available. I think that's it.
Yeah. I think what we need is a change in mindset. Seeing tax only, not seeing tax only as a compliance function. Because as a tax professional, I can say that tax laws can be interpreted in different ways. And everything is possible. So it is just not a compliance function, but there also lies a restructuring, a saving opportunity. And that's what AI, machine learning, and blockchain can give us. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I think it was a great session.